I didn't plan to do a secondary response this quickly, but I did anticipate that the coverage that we did on Apollo Inu would get some people chatting, and I expected that there would be, rightfully so, some people that were a little bit triggered over what I said. And unfortunately, despite my every effort to make sure I had proper thumbnails. You go on YouTube today and the thumbnails are crap. They mislead you. It has nothing to do with the content, or, they'll show you what looks like an action scene from a fight. And then you go in it and there's some dude who says, "What's up, YouTubers?" And I try not to do that. My thumbnails are pretty consistent that it's always going to be a thumbnail. And I try to be informative with the thumbnail so you're already aware of what you should expect when you go in this dude. And so I spend a lot of time. It doesn't take me a lot to build them, but it takes a lot of time to think about what I want the thumbnail to say, because the thumbnail should support the message behind what I'm covering. And with Apollo in particular, I spent a lot of time realizing that, this statement I make here, although I was very good with my context and my words and my qualifiers, I knew that our education system was failing people in the United States. And so I figured, let me make sure that the thumbnail resonates to people with evidence and proof. So if Crypto Queen is hearing this, I understand where you're coming from now, because despite even a thumbnail, a screenshot, anything that shows definitive proof of a statement that's not even made as an accusation, it's made as an observation and thus subject to scrutiny, and you support it with even screenshots directly talking about it, there's still, I can only describe it, like I said, with believes. It's like there's just kind of this Chewbacca defense that spins around the crypto world. It's kind of like, well, that's fake, and you're just talking about the thing, and I know that there's but look at the pretty token. Like, this is what we're constantly dealing with, and I don't know why we got to this point. There's just this rush to judgment, which is the fallacy, around cryptocurrency, where people are so diehard in it, they can't even receive factual evidence of statements that are made not as a statement of actual determinative something, but an observation. We make observations, we look at it, and we make an observation. Here's the only call to action when we do this is we need the token developer to come back, and we want the smoke. Answer the question. That's all. And if you don't want to answer the question, you shouldn't be calling it, quote, FUD, or calling it fake, or calling it a lie, especially when evidence is produced that supports what we have observed. So with Apollo Inu, we knew that one thing would stand out in people's minds. They didn't, in the comments and responses, they didn't call this out, but we know that's what they're talking about. Ultimately, if you listen to that episode in its entirety, and I'm sorry if I'm coming across like Dave Chappelle, but you really need to listen to the episode in its entirety, because if you listen to the episode in its entirety, at no point do I make any accusations of anything. Everything has a qualifier. I said assume, if, possibly, because I don't know. I am not in the token, nor do I plan to be, unless they change the contract. I'm not in the token, nor do I plan to be. Thus, I can't qualify any of those. I can always, though, tell you what I see of their own information. And I start the episode right at the front saying, this is based on what I see. So if what I see is incorrect, that's what I said in the episode, that what I see is either right or wrong. It's very simple. It's very binary, right? It's either correct or it is incorrect. If it's incorrect, as an investor myself, I'm a little bit concerned that so many people don't care that they have wrong information still left on their site and don't seem inclined to fix it. I'm also concerned that when I give this and I say, look, they had Jake again on the show, and we know Jake again charges, but your document says we never do this. Like the word never. It is written, black letter. Apollo has never paid. So you're making the statement that you didn't pay this dude, despite the fact that we know that others have paid him, which means he generally charges. So if it's true that you had him, so either your Trello's wrong or your white paper's wrong. Okay, I'm saying if your information is wrong, I consider that a red flag, because that means you're misleading people. Now, it's fine if people come back and say, you know what, I don't mind being lied to. I celebrate your willingness to be lied to and misled. I said I wouldn't personally do it because I think as an investor, you should want to be told the truth, and you should want your project to treat you like an investor, because it should be treated like a business where there's clear transparency. Transparency doesn't mean you throw out statements that are lies, which I don't know if it is a lie or not, because they haven't answered the question, because they have contradictory information that they have not corrected. And if the resonance is, well, you're saying this, that, and the other, again, there's always a qualifier. If, possibly, looks like, there is no lie. because there is no statement of fact in anything I said. It is all what I observe. And I expect the token devs to confirm, qualify, verify, or in any way quantify what we're saying. If we look at it and we see XY, okay, I'm going to question you on XY. If you can't come back and say, well, XY is because of this, that's, I would consider a problem, because I think you should be able to do that, and you should be willing to do that because you should care about your investors enough to keep your stuff up to date. Now, it could be, then some comments, it could be that there's just this one thing that's a default response, and it seems like it's almost always Americans, right? Is anytime you question something, anytime you criticize something, or you don't criticize it, but you make an observation that is critical in nature, there's always this, and it's a fallacy, but you immediately jump to something that says, oh, sad you missed out, or you salty, or some other thing that's it's a Chewbacca deflection, right? You're just deflecting. You're not addressing the content and really thinking about, and this is why I say it possibly is our education system in the U.S., really thinking about the content of what was said, and then coming back and saying, I understand what you said. I see these contradictions too. That is a bit of a thing. I, as an investor, choose to stay in it because I want to make some money. That's great. I support it. If you listen all the way through the episode, which is why it's critical you listen to all of it, I even said, I want you to go look at it and see if it makes sense for you. You may not care about what I'm saying, and you may just be profit-oriented, and that is your strategy. That's great. I support it. This, because of what's happening, tells me people aren't listening to the duration of the episode. And by the way, spoiler alert, I can see the stats that most of the people that are doing these trigger type responses aren't listening to it to duration. They hear a thing, they mishear a thing, I should clarify, and then they get triggered, and then they want to fire off a response because they think they have to somehow validate their opinion in some way. Now, I'm going to leave those up there because one of them is slightly disrespectful, but not to the degree that I would delete it. I'm going to leave them up there so that I can embarrass them because it's educational. I feel an obligation that I need to fill in the gaps that our education system clearly has failed these kids, and I want to fill in the gaps and provide some clarification and insight to them in response with a very simple reply that I will share here for anybody listening to this, and I give you the same opportunity to learn and master context. I challenge anybody, straight up, I want the smoke. I challenge anybody in the original video that was posted to timestamp where I made any statement that is factually inaccurate, that does not have a qualifier, thus it's stated as a point in fact. I challenge you, timestamp anywhere in that. If you can find where I made a statement presented as a factual thing with no qualifier, I'll give you an open apology on the show, on the air, directly with whatever name you want credited. Why am I so confident? Because I went through an educational process that I thought was very strong, and I'm an avid book reader to boot, but I went through a process that was very strong to where I understand how to qualify what I'm saying so that it's presented as an opinion where it's an opinion. Even if it's something where I've got some factual data, I will always add qualifiers because there could be mitigating circumstances underneath the hood. Folks, I understand that. I don't blame you. I don't blame the people who are triggered and react deep crowd. I understand that the vast majority of you were ill-served by our education system here in the U.S. And so I know that's a thing. I want to help you. I want to be the one that can provide you more insight, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, when I present you a screen that gives you evidence, even though I gave a qualifier, even though I wasn't sure, even though I said if, and I presented it as something to think about, and you still say that there's lies, you're disbelieving what you see. You're not believing your own eyes. There was an old meme back in the day with a guy and his girlfriend, and apparently the girl catches the guy cheating and calls him out on it. He said, and apparently it's like brought to attention from her friend. And he says, who are you going to believe, her or your own eyes? That's what this is. Like, you're not even believing your own eyes. Do you realize how tinfoil you sound? How absolutely paranoid you sound? That you won't even accept any visual evidence that is directly telling you this is the reason we have this concern. And you still, despite physical evidence, you still won't accept or believe what you see. You're so embedded and so deep. about your project. I can't imagine. Even Scientology had people that they've not seen evidence of what was claimed there, and they still believed. But at least there was no evidence to the contrary. Like, that Scientology does go out in the community, and Scientology does do this, and so the other things that they said that they do that are positive are factual things. The other things that were stated as negative cannot be directly proven because nobody can bring that evidence out because of the way that it works. So it either is or isn't. But there are people that stay in Scientology because they believe in the good stuff that we see that they do. Okay, but does that mean you ignore this negative stuff over here? Like, I actually wish, I almost cussed, just for giggles, I actually wish Scientology would create a cryptocurrency. I want a Scientology cryptocurrency. I want it. Do you know why? Because that crypto, you talk about go to the moon, that crypto cannot fail. It cannot fail because the tribal support from some of these people, you might as well be a supporter on. And so if I see a Scientology crypto, that's when I would buy. I wouldn't YOLO, but I would at least put a little bit of money in that dude, because I guarantee you that one's going all the way. That one would never have any sales because you'd either be afraid to do it or you'd be skeptical. I want a Scientology crypto because you guys are you're inspiring that kind of tribal support that makes no sense. Because here's the thing. We're talking cryptocurrency. We're not talking something where it's some celebrity, directly celebrity. I'm not talking influencer. I'm talking a direct celebrity, somebody who actually means something. I'm talking a direct celebrity. That's not what we're talking about here. And even if we were talking about this, like if we said, you know what, you don't have any proof that Wesley Snipes didn't file that tax form, despite the fact that the freaking IRS publishes it on their site. That's what we're talking about here. At what point do you guys resonate and recognize you sound silly? I'm not here to tell you that you sound silly because you're stupid. That's not me. I say you sound stupid and silly because our education system failed you here in the United States. If you're not in the United States, and I can tell the people who are mostly responding, they're in the United States, but if you're not in the United States and you feel that, hey, no, this is the legit and all this good stuff, it may be that you've been misled by people in the United States, because I can tell that the people behind this, they're probably not in the United States, or if they are, most of them have been exposed to those values. Regardless, anybody who's responding saying fake or lying to an opinion piece, which opinions cannot by definition be fake, opinions cannot by definition be a lie because they're stated as an opinion. And everything in that is stated as an opinion. And you've got your call to action. I want the smoke. If you can timestamp in that original video any point where I did not use a qualifier and I presented something as a statement of fact, I want that smoke. And I will openly apologize to you, because I'm so confident, because I know I'd used a qualifier pretty darn good. And I listened back to the episode like 4 or 5 times to make sure there's nothing that was concerning from my ears. Now, if you say, well, you don't know, that's the point, which would verify what I'm saying, which is that our education system failed you. Because I don't know, I present it as an if. You just don't want me to talk about it. You don't want me to mention it because you don't want the token's price to fail, because you realize that people will be hesitant to go to it if it turns out what I'm saying is the truth, and then I provide the screenshots. You're objective. You're transparent with it. You are trying to preserve your bags. I would rather see that your token devs be a little bit more honest with what they say, because that's going to give them more credibility in the eyes of investors. I would rather see your token devs take the recommendation to correct your shill mechanic to where it's a lot more fair, because that's going to increase the quality from those that are not legit shills. I would rather see a stronger, more legitimate project out of it, that you take these suggestions and say, you know what, we can make it more provably fair. We can get away from the shilling. We can do that. What is the net effect? It means we devs can't benefit from these influencers' followers, and we can no longer exploit them, because that's what you're doing, ladies and gentlemen. So if it's true that this is your mechanic, and if I've read your site correctly, that's what you're doing. If you don't like what I'm saying, I applaud your right to not like what I'm saying. I celebrate you not like what I'm saying. But when you throw out things like lie and fake, you need to back that up, Because if you can't back that up, you just make yourself look stupid. Because the smart people out there, and when I say smart, I mean the people where education didn't fail them, they will already recognize game. They recognize this dude he's just trying to protect his bag. He doesn't like what he said. And guess what? Leicester, right at the front of the show, said there's going to be people that don't like this because it hurts their bag. And you guys are the ones that only care about the money. If you really cared about your money and you really wanted to succeed, you'd want it to be legitimate, because we're in an era where people want legitimate projects, not ones that come across like scams, or not ones that are catering to shills because of what happened with Del Crypto. So open door. If you can timestamp any point in that original video where a statement of fact was made that is factually inaccurate, that does not have a qualifier, I want that smoke. Bring it.